start just like that. And sorry you missed a lot. That's why I get the page. Oh, was it not even streaming audio? So you guys didn't get any of that? That's terrible. Do you want me to tell it again? Did you hear it? The audio at least? Wait, you probably should. No, you wouldn't have heard the audio. Okay. Okay. It's live now. It's live. It's going to be live in just a moment. In just a moment. Okay. Well, I can't say the whole story again. Come on. It's going to show live in a moment. It's all good. Okay. Should be in a sec. Let's play some JD Vance video. Some audio. It's going to be live. I hit the button. All the buttons have been hit correctly. Stop streaming. It's streaming. Okay. So here we go. Some JD Vance. Ooh. Hope this is nobody's first show. Hey, there I am. Sorry about that. Okay. So what happened was, guys, if you were watching the stream, is how come I'm frozen now? Was maybe I'll go ask ChatGPT to tell me stories of concierge meeting glorious men at Chaps. That is incorrect. Okay, see what happened was this is I forgot to on OBS hit go stream and go live. There's a lot of stuff to do. I rushed it. I know I'm on now. Thank you so much for that. So you guys missed everything I said at the beginning. I can't say the story again because I already said it in audio, right? Okay, the story is this. I took my son to. Okay, it is the story. My son, last night, 10 years old, choked on a dime. I had to give him the Heimlich. Out goes a dime. I say, why was there a dime in your mouth? He said, I don't know. Fine. Same guy today. We had a concert, and there's a longer version of this in the stream. We had a concert, and I strategically parked as far away as possible so I could get the hell out of Dodge when it was done. Concert ends. I grab my son. We fly down the hall. We get out of there. We jump in the car, and everything worked out beautifully. Beautifully. And so that's where I am right now. And now I'm going to play some JD Vance from last night, and we'll play a little bit of Gerry later. So there you go. I apologize for the 11th time this week, and it's only Tuesday. All right, let's see. Let's get some Gerry going here. Let's get some JD Vance going here. He was in The View today. It goes how you know it would, but it's so nice to see it regardless. It's just nice to see, like, these people they've got no shot against him. But here we go. Whoopi and the rest of them matching wits.
And you were talking about people. What did black people do to this administration that has allowed it to really stigmatize folks of color? And you know how hard it is. You have folks of color in your family.
Sure.
So when you see, things, the Emmett Till stuff coming down, or them doing all kinds of removal of information of black heroes, how does that sit with you?
Well, what exactly are you talking about, Whoopi? Because you just I know Emmett Till was the kid. I want to know what
you don't know what I'm talking about.
To your actual point.
So in a lot of the museums, there's so many. Where they're taking down the actual history that happened in this country. Slavery happened. All kinds of stuff happened. And it seems that it has been very easy for this administration to remove that and also to denigrate black folks who have worked their behinds off to get this American dream. How do you, you know better.
So Sonny, that was actually a very helpful intervention, because I think the story you're talking about is where, allegedly the administration is holding back the appointments of people based on skin color. I've seen this story.
I'm talking about a host of things. I'm talking about black history getting erased from public spaces. Black voter districts are being dismantled. Black leaders are being...
This is so... she obviously doesn't care about the truth of that. The black history is not being erased. We're getting rid of DEI horse crap. We're getting rid of all these disclaimers saying, by the way, this was at a time when slavery was... all the DEI crap. But black districts, the Supreme Court ruled that you can't make districts based on race. So that's getting rid of black districts. You don't get to have black districts or white districts. You get districts. Oh.
Sidelined from our ranks. Where do Americans of color fit in this vision? Because it doesn't seem like we fit.
I think so. My view.
And if I may, since October of last year, there's been something like 6,668 refugees allowed into the country, all but
something like that. She said, as if she hasn't been practicing that for freaking 10 hours.
3 were white South Africans.
So, first of all, I'm very skeptical of that number because we have a lot of different immigration pathways in the United States of America. But let me just address Whoopi's point. Look, first of all, you asked the question, and maybe you don't believe this coming from me, but I think everybody is welcome in our political coalition. Frankly, even if you didn't vote for us, everybody is welcome in our country so long as you're an American citizen with the duties and the legal obligations and rights to be here. But Whoopi, let me just give you an example of this. Okay, so you say that we're anti-minority or anti-black.
No, I didn't say that. I asked. See?
Well, okay, fine. Fair.
Don't start any stuff with me, man. Don't get me in trouble. Don't start no stuff with me. But
I misinterpreted your question, but let me answer your actual question there. What I'm saying, I think, okay, look at Washington, D.C. One of the most democratic and one of the blackest, by a share of population, blackest cities in the United States of America, has seen a radical decrease in violent crimes and sexual assaults and in murders. We have tried to take the crime issue seriously, in part because we believe everybody, whether you're black or white or rich or poor, deserves to live in a safe neighborhood.
But why does the crime? Where does the crime step in? This is not about crime. This is about
women lost their jobs.
Right. This is about human rights.
What you're saying is. We got to do more on the economy.
And black history has been erased from public spaces.
Black history is not erased from public spaces.
Guys, we do have to get to Iran when we get back. There's some very important news to
I'm telling you, we celebrate black history. We celebrate all American history in this administration. You guys might be skeptical.
Yeah, the sign near my house is, denigrating white people. It is. It's like, it's ridiculous. All the signs have been redone. All these freaking sneaks on the Historical Commission snuck around and added stupid freaking overly long overly wordy context to all the signs that talked about like Indians, who murdered and stuff. Okay, let me see. Where's another? Okay, I got a few J.D. Vance ones that I think are great. I mean, the guy is so good. He's got all the. To me, he's like the shoo-in to be president. Behar.
Well, I got to defend the president on the hoax point. What the president said is the idea that Republicans caused the affordability problem is a hoax. And I think that's true. If you go back to the Biden administration, inflation got up to 9% under the Biden administration. Okay. Right now it's at 3.5%. By the way, too high. We're doing everything that we can to bring it back down to 2.5%, which is where most people would like to see it. But we inherited an affordability problem. We're doing a lot to make it better. It's going to take a little bit of time. There's a lot more work to do. But the president knows that a lot of Americans are struggling. In fact, he ran on that. He talked about it. And we've done some things and made some good progress on that point.
He just said he loves the inflation.
What he said, Anna, what he said is that he loves the fact that the inflation is going to come down when this war is over. That's what he said.
That's not what he said.
That wasn't a direct.
Are you his interpreter or are you his vice president?
He is kind of spinning that one.
Well, look, what the president said, people were asking about the inflation. They were asking about the affordability problem, which again is very real. And what he said is, I love the inflation because it's going to come down when the war is over. And now, again, we already see gas prices today, $4.06 a gallon, too high, but way down from where they were just a couple of weeks ago. So there's a lot we got to do, but I think that we're doing as much as we can. We're going to keep on working at it. And again, the American people are going to make their verdict, but I think that we have a very credible case to run on, that we brought a lot of new investment. We're building the factories. That is going to pay serious dividends for the American people over the long haul.
When?
Well, Joy, if you look at manufacturing jobs.
Okay.
Those jobs are increasing at a large number. Construction jobs are doing a little bit better. So what happens is the construction jobs to build the factories, and then the manufacturing workers go back to work. That also leads to rising wages. That's one of the things that I'm very proud of, is if you look at the amount that wages are going up now compared to, say, 2022, they're going up way faster. That's a good thing. The affordability problem. Again, gas, way too high right now. Certain things way too high. You know, rents have been either flat or down for 12 months now. So there are things that are showing signs of life, things that are showing signs of progress. My view, I'm sure you guys don't agree with it, is that we inherited a mess and we're fixing it. But sometimes it takes a long time to fix a mess.
The thing is, like, they don't say anything when he says something like that because they don't have anything to say. You know, he is obviously spinning some here and polishing a sneaker here, but you can counter him, but they don't. They don't. And so, like, all their Concha mentioned is their questions are like pre-written, carefully scripted, but they don't have any substance after that.
Mr. Vice President, according to a new report from the New York Times, you were the leading voice behind the scenes to release the Epstein files, and we applaud you for that. And you warned top officials, including top DOJ officials, at strategy meetings taking place inside the Situation Room. We understand that there are tapes of those meetings, that this was a huge problem for the base. The report says you even floated having Tucker Carlson interview Ghislaine Maxwell to clear the president's name, but you were rebuffed by your people. Why?
Well, I'd say, first of all, don't believe everything that you read in any newspaper, whether it's a right-leaning paper or a left-leaning paper, because as you guys know, well, there are things that are true, things that are false, and things that are totally missing context. Well, here's what I'll say. So, number one, I am, frankly, kind of a conspiracy theory on the Epstein stuff, and that story says that that's one of the things that's true, is that some people called me a conspiracy theory on the Epstein stuff. And I love Susie, but absolutely, she thinks I'm a conspiracy theorist on the Epstein stuff because I think that it's crazy that you had this guy who is clearly a sex predator who is hanging out with a lot of very wealthy and powerful people. Like, that really bothered me. I don't know what's there, of course. Nobody knows exactly what happened unless you were there, but that really bothered me, and I wanted to have full transparency.
By the way, I think that's great. You never have an administration where the VP is openly airing his differences with the chief of staff. Like never. And for Susie Wiles to say that's a kind of transparency, like the real stuff, where they pretend not to be like 100,000% collegial all the time. People like that. People respect that when you let them in a little bit. And that's good. And when Susie Wiles says when a couple of the cabinet people are fighting, boys will be boys, that's good too.
What I disagree with is the idea that the White House wasn't committed to full transparency. We have to remember, like, I was inside the room when some of these decisions were made. The Epstein Files Transparency Act, the one that the president signed, the one that led to all these files that we're seeing, the emails. By the way, again, sorry, do I have to defend my boss? I know you guys don't always appreciate this, but, you know, one of the things you see in the Epstein emails is that Jeffrey Epstein hated Donald Trump, and that Donald Trump literally reported Jeffrey Epstein to the police. That's one of the things that came out of these files.
They were best friends for about a decade. And remember, he signed that Transparency Act under duress when some Republican women, congresswomen like Lauren Boebert, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, did not give in to his pressure of not signing. He brought Lauren Boebert into the Situation Room to pressure her into caving on not voting for that bill.
So let me respond to that. So
that's all true.
Let me respond to that. So number one is, yes, Donald Trump, and he said this, he knew Jeffrey Epstein back in the 1980s. He also threw Jeffrey Epstein out of his club when he found out he was a creep and reported him to the police. That's something that the media often misses when it reports this story. They tell the fact that they knew each other in the 80s, which the president himself admits. They ignore the fact that he narked on him to the police and led ultimately to JeffreyEpstein's downfall. To that point, Anna, you know the Republican Party. Well, it's one of the things that led to law enforcement investigation. But on the point that you made,
it was allegedly over a real estate deal that they got into a fight over.
But the email says actually
they didn't just know each other. Let's just be truthful and transparent here. They didn't just know each other. They were incredibly close friends.
He reported him to the police. That's what I'm saying. That is objective. That is objectively true. But Anna made another point that I think I would be if I may. Because Anna made a very important point. This question about
he's so good, man. The guy's he's got better etiquette. He's classier. He's more well-read. He's more articulate. Like, they're just like these. I mean, these people are not smart anyway. Like, does anybody grab 5 people off the streets who are shopping in Market Basket, and they're smarter than this guy is anyway. These women. But I can listen to Vance. I mean, Rubio could also do the same thing. There's no doubt about that. But Vance has different tools. He does. He's a little bit big-brained, more big brain than Rubio.
Donald Trump released these files only under duress from Republicans. And Anna, you know the Republican Party probably better than I do. The idea that Donald Trump runs around afraid of Republican congressmen as opposed to the other way around is kind of crazy.
What was it bipartisan? It was Republicans and Democrats.
But because the Republicans control the House and the Senate, particularly the Senate, you need the Republican sign off. What the president did is, look, I will say this again. I was in there in the meetings. He was very frustrated that the Democrats were making this about him when he's like, look, I threw the guy out of my club. I am the guy who reported him to the police, or one of the people who reported him to the police. The president was frustrated about that, absolutely. But he eventually came to say, you know what? Let's just get everything out there. Let's have this out in the public. And he actually called the senators. I was there. He called the senators and said, you know what? Pass this bill. I'll sign it. And that was it.
Well, then let me follow up.
Trump and Epstein, Tom and Paul. How dare you? That is incorrect. That would make me... No, that would make me Trump and the Epstein thing. No, that is incorrect. I also think that Trump just liked Epstein because he knew people. Like, Trump was a high society guy. I mean, really, I think that Epstein was poaching his help at Mar-a-Lago, and it's hard to get help. And he's like, F off. Get this guy out of here. I used to be in the hotel business, so I understand. It's hard to get good help. Let's see. I may have one or two more Vance cuts here. Let's see. Here we go.
November, and they're the ones who get to decide whether we've done a good job or not, and that's how they're going to vote.
Okay. So President Trump has called affordability a hoax. He said that, not me. He's pouring money into this ballroom of his and the reflecting pool. Oh, don't forget the Arch de Trumpet, I call it, and a White House cage match. All these things. Why is he doing them when you just, everybody knows that Americans are struggling? What is he spending all this money for?
Well, I got to defend the president on the hoax point. What the president said is the idea that Republicans caused the affordability problem is a hoax. And I think that's true. If you go back to the Biden administration, inflation got up to 9% under the Biden administration. Okay, right now it's at 3.5%.
Okay.
By the way, too high. We're doing
Okay, we already played that one. That might be it. Is there another one? I had one more. Oh, yeah. Republicans cause affordability hoax. What did black people do to this administration to make you stigmatize people full of color? Is that the first one we did?
And you were talking about...
No, we already played it. There was one about religion I thought that we needed to hit. Oh, well, I won't beat it over your head if you've had enough. We can go to some Gerry. It's Gerry Callahan today. Today, talking about Eddie Andelman. We talked about Eddie yesterday. He was the king of sports talk radio, and I got to know him and hang out with him, which was a thrill. I was a radio fan. I guess, mostly am just a radio fan. I eventually got into radio. But I was a fan. So when I was a fan and suddenly all these guys are my heroes, it was crazy. Like, walking next to John and Gerry when you don't know, I was just a fan of the show and fan of Gerry's politics and this and that, and walking near them and I was like in awe because I was always a talk radio guy. Like, even before I was 10 years old, a lot of you guys were too. So to get into the studio. My job, I was a receptionist, so I wasn't supposed to be in the studios, but my key card worked to get in there, so I would just go deliver stuff that really didn't need delivering, just to say hi and seem helpful. And to see like John and Gerry, and then Gerry shoot the breeze in the hall with somebody, and Gerry had no airs about him. I mean, even though I was the receptionist, and then I went to RKO, he didn't care. Those guys were on top of the world anyway. But neither of them were like the dicks to me. John, like neither John nor Gerry, like none of those guys over there were at all. I wish I had a horror story. Like, they were all good. Howie was nice. They were all. I mean, a couple of the producers, but those, But anyway, like I remember being in the hall one time. And I'm with Jeff Jacoby because he's filling in for RKO. So me and Jeff were talking for like an hour. I had just been the receptionist. Now I was the executive producer, which means you do the schedule essentially and take all of the complaints and make sure Howie's happy and that Ordway's happy. The worst part of the job was being in charge of getting the newspapers there because they were so unreliable. The people, it was some outside company and they'd barely get there. So then there would be times when I had everybody from EI pissed off at me, everybody from RKO pissed off at me, and these are guys, I love these guys. So man, I had to, that stunk being, freaking newspapers. Thankfully, nobody uses them now. But I remember Sandy once saying, you need to make sure those newspapers get here in time. The newspapers have a lot of things that the internet doesn't have. Are we sure about that? I think it might be the other way around. But anyway, this time I'm bringing Jacoby into the studio, and Gerry said, Jacoby. Jerry's voice wasn't like that then. Gerry has his natural voice is a very smooth voice. It's actually kind of a nice voice, but it was a fluttery, nice voice. He said, Jacoby, what are you doing at the Globe? You need to be back at the Herald. You should be working with us. And Jacoby said something like, well, I appreciate that, Gerry, but we do our coverage as well as we can. And he said, yeah, well, you guys didn't cover the Kennedys, and they were stumping the granddaughter. But it was like Gerry was so over the top in the hallway, and I thought, this is great. I'm getting a Gerry Callahan rant right in the hallway, and it's freaking great. And then one time I was intimidated by those guys, especially Gerry, because he looks, I don't know, if you guys don't know him, or if you haven't seen him in person, like he looks a bit Cro-Magnon, and looks like he walks like somebody who's a bit of a cyborg. A lot of those guys did. So he's a little intimidating. I knew he came from Chelmsford, so that's kind of street to me, And so I saw him in the hall one time, and I said, hey, Gerry, do you, I have Michael Savage's new book. Do you want a copy? And he said, you think? And I thought, that's great. And I gave him a copy, and he was thrilled. Of course, he loved Michael Savage. But anyway, I don't know why I brought this up, but so I'm just thrilled. It's just thrilling to have met Eddie too, and that's what I was saying yesterday, and to have met all these people who are simply my heroes. There are some people who amazingly think I'm bragging when I name drop, but I'm not bragging. I am freaking thrilled that I snuck into radio, and I can't believe the real guys are there. So I talk about this all day long. I'm these guys they're not my bros or wanting to hang with me necessarily, but but I'll never get sick of all the time with radio. When my dad got to meet, I brought this up with Kirk yesterday a little bit, with Eddie. My dad didn't get to meet Eddie. I would have killed for him to meet Eddie, but my dad did get to meet Pat Whitley and Mauls, and that was everything. That was everything. He was thrilled, and he couldn't believe it. And guys know how it is. Some of these people are with you forever. All right, enough about that. This is Gerry Callahan, who talked about. Sorry for coughing on you. Who talked about Eddie Andelman? Gerry is I think Jerry's recollection of Eddie probably it will get the biggest box office. Because, he's not kind of afraid to go there at all. So here he is. Always great to talk to Gerry Callahan. You know him at the Gerry Callahan Show. Gerry worked at the same station for some crossover at WEEI with Andelman, with Eddie Andelman, who everybody's been talking about the last 24 hours. Gerry, you're a kid in the 1970s, a big Boston sports fan. I can't imagine that Sunday nights were anything but exhilarating for you.
No, that's true. I was one of those people that listened to the Sports Huddle and loved it and had no idea that it would, change my life. But I had one good friend, close friend, and if we were out or doing something, he had to go home. Like he said, got to go home, Sports Huddle stuff. And he would sit in his chair and listen to whatever it was, 3 hours of the Sports Huddle. I did, in the car. I listened and thought they were great, and ended up working with Eddie, becoming a good friend of Jimmy McCarthy, who was just a great guy. But those guys, it's funny. You hear them once a week, and you just thought that's what it was. There is no denying Eddie's place in history, man. He changed the landscape. He He is indeed the godfather of sports talk radio. He became a full-timer. We all benefited. I can't deny that, man. I wouldn't be here sitting in my second home. My kids wouldn't have been able to go to the schools they went to if not for the influence of Eddie, and I'll be forever grateful.
And, at the time in the late 60s, it was kind of, it was starting that news and opinion formats were getting more ruckus, like Bill Buckley and Gore Vidal and like some high-profile people were like pushing the envelope. You listen to Eddie, Mark, and Jim in like 1971 and 72, they are freaking going at it. It is a Donnybrook in that studio. And I think that was a new thing back then. But you don't even hear that parallel much, maybe except for you in your shows. But like that kind of combat in the studio, that was new then, and like it changed everything.
Yeah, he broke all the rules. I will tell you that I'm going to tell you things that no one else is going to tell you, Shattuck. Because we're friends. There's a clip, and you'll never find it, probably never hear it, but I heard it, and it is the single funniest thing I've ever heard on the radio. I would include anything I've done or any show that on our station, and I'd include Howard Stern, everyone else. So Eddie, Mark, and Jim are taking calls, and some old lady, and you could tell she's elderly. A lot of old folks call in, and she calls in and just says, "I want to tell you guys, I love your show. You guys are so good. Jimmy, you're funny, and Mark, you're great, and Eddie, I love you guys. You're so good. You're so fun. I listen every week." And then she goes, "And I just want to come down the studio and give you all oral sex." And they fell out of their chairs laughing. I heard it. It happened, and it was. And she didn't say that. She said,
yeah.
And it was just, and that was what you'd consider, totally unheard of at the time, and against all the rules.
One of the things I noticed from listening back to in the last 24 hours. Is first of all just how sharp Mark Whitkin and Jim McCarthy were. They were like real. They were no slouches. Eddie kind of, to me anyway. Eddie always got top billing because he was the most over the top. Those guys were excellent, and none of them sounded like radio guys back then.
No, they were just regular. Jim McCarthy was, I believe, a realist. Mark Whitkin was a lawyer. Jim was a great guy too, and he was a businessman, and they were in business together, and they had their ups and downs with Eddie, but they were a great combination. It's too bad they didn't last. When Eddie went full-time, too bad. They had real jobs. They couldn't do it. But if he came with them, I think more people would know just how great they were. In their prime, they were the best.
So do you think, how much of the success of that show was the despair of the Boston, certainly not Celtics-wise, but like if the Sox win the 67 World Series, does that show hit as hard? Or if the Sox won 75?
That's a good question, because they did channel the frustration and they did go on those rants. Probably not. And, they didn't have that filter, that at the time there were rules, and radio guys, you had that in the back of your mind, just like TV, where you couldn't say certain things and you had to support certain people, and they just said, screw it. And it felt like, it's a cliche, just three guys sitting around talking. And it's hard to believe that was innovative at the time, because it's been tried, sometimes successfully, a million times across the country. But at the time, you'd never heard anything like it. It was truly original. And, Eddie was the ringleader, and he was the wild card, the loose cannon, and it just worked. It did. And I'll again say I'm forever grateful. Eddie liked me at first. And he used to put me,
I think that's a running theme, Gerry. I think that's
he used to put me on the air. Well, I'll just tell the truth. Yeah. It's hard. His legacy is complicated, as they say. But he used to put me on the air, this producer would call me up. I was writing columns for the Herald, and I would leave the Herald office, go over to the building, wherever it was in the Schrafft's building, I believe. It was also in Copley Square. I'd go over, sit down for an hour or two with Eddie, and it was great. And he would read my columns on the air, and he told me, you're going places. He encouraged me. He was good. He was a friend. And it worked that way until John Dennis and I got the full-time gig leading into his show, we were 10 to noon at first, and like a switch, he just didn't, it was all different. He didn't like me anymore, and he hated John Dennis. For whatever reason, I didn't think we were a threat. He just didn't, we weren't, it wasn't the same after that. I don't think he didn't hate me. We got along fine. We talked in the hall, but he hated some people. He hated John Dennis, and he wanted to fight him. And, he didn't like Fred Smirlis, who was a good friend. And I'll say this, and I'm not disparaging him, but nobody in my life, in my career, could do what he did. He could turn it on and turn it off. When you're on the radio, as you know, for 3 or 4 hours, you can't fake it. When you hear people on the radio, that's who they are, because it's not like TV where you do these 2-3 minute hits, where I know TV guys who are totally different on the air and off because they can flip a switch for 2 or 3 minutes. It's impossible almost to do that for 2 or 3 hours. So when you hear someone every day for 3 or 4 hours, that's them, except Eddie. Eddie was different. Eddie was fun-loving and carefree on the air, and off the air he was driven and serious and at times dour, and he was a businessman. On the air he was this goofy fan, and he could just do it. He could pull it off like no one I've ever seen before.
I do remember talking to Eddie about John, and this is like 10 years ago. He hated John. He didn't hate you. You might have been in purgatory then, Gerry, but he didn't.
Yeah, I was in between. We I shouldn't say he didn't like me. I don't know. We got along fine, but I was with John Dennis. I was with Dino, right. And he hated him, and he hated. I don't even know why, to be honest with you, but he once, another tale I'll tell out of school. He once tried to fight him in the hallway, and Dino was bigger than him and younger.
Yes.
And he was crazy too, but he wanted to fight, and I'm in the middle going, no, keeping them apart. And I'm thinking, you really want to fight him in the hallway? It was that competitive and that edgy at times. And some of my friends, he just despised, like Fred and Dino and Upton Bell, who was a good friend and a great guy, and he just hated him. And you never really knew why. Certain people he just couldn't stand.
So what is and you just mentioned it, but we should say that again. Like, Eddie was not a big guy. He had a couple of extra pounds on him at that time. But for him to go up against John Dennis is crazy. For him to go up against Freddie is insane. Smirlis. Like, the odds of it.
At the time, I've said this before, but there couldn't have been 10 people in the country who could take Fred Smirlis in a fight. He was, an all-pro defensive lineman. He set the record on the bench press when he came out of college. He was an all-American wrestler. He was crazy. He was big. He was strong. He carried a gun. Freddie was scary. And I love the guy. He was a good friend. He is a good friend and a great guy. And I don't even know why. You never quite knew why, but Eddie didn't like him. And one day, I'll say this for Eddie, he was fearless. He challenged Fred, he challenged Dino. He was ready to go. And I'm thinking, are you nuts? But he just, sometimes some people he just didn't like, and he wasn't shy about showing it.
Was this in the time of sports talk radio where you would ever dare talk about this stuff on the air? What happened in the halls?
Oh yeah. I mean, Dino, it was mutual. Dino didn't like him, and I guess he wouldn't totally open up, but we couldn't do crossovers. When you have a show and the next show's coming up,
yes.
And you'd have that banter.
Yeah.
And we did it all the time with everybody else, Dale or Glenn Ordway. You could have that little crossover, but we couldn't do it with Eddie because he wouldn't do it because he just didn't like Dino, and it was mutual.
Yeah, and you never know. I get the feeling that. And having worked with Eddie, and like I said, it was just 10 years ago, and this is the Boston Herald, and it wasn't a big operation like you guys had at a real radio station, but he was the conductor. He wanted this drop here, he wanted this music here, and he had in his mind a symphony all ready for his hour or what he was going to do, and he didn't like people messing with it. I wonder if as ratings sagged, management just started. They must have messed with him because they certainly didn't mess with him at all at Sunday nights because he was calling undertakers in L.A., and having conversations about them, asking whether the Red Sox were dead, which is.
Well, I mean, he didn't like Ordway who I love. He's a good friend, and he is a legend in his own right. He made history in many ways, but Glenn did something really ballsy. He said no more solo shows, and he put Dale Arnold together with Eddie, and it worked. I'll say it. I mean, there was always tension. There was great debates and fights, and it worked. It was a good show, and Eddie didn't like that. He wanted to be, solos, but Glenn didn't want solo shows. He put everyone together, and every show, his show, our show, they all worked. The ratings worked. Glenn was right. It was a great vision, and the whole day the ratings were great until Imus was dragging us down in the morning, and then they replaced Imus with John and me, and still we had great numbers across the board, and a lot of it was the tension. Tension works. You got debates and arguments and fights, and they're not scripted, they're real. And Eddie was always up for a brawl, on the air or off, and that's why he lasted as long as he did, because it was good radio. I used to tell that to Dale all the time. That was a great show, and he'd be like shaking his head, because it would go off the rails at times, and it would get personal. But we all did that at times, and I think we all learned that was good radio.
Yeah, it's interesting because it sounds like that the show is great. I just missed the Dale and Eddie years, but it sounded like the show was great. But it was taking a piece of Dale with it every day, apparently.
Dale was good too, man. He could, obviously he was, articulate. He's smart as hell, and he would give it right back. And he might not have liked it, but he did it and did it well. He would battle. He would bang heads with Eddie every day, and they knew in their hearts that it was good radio and it was working, even if it wasn't all that pleasant at times.
So if the sports huddle on Sunday nights, incredibly, before I let you go, Gerry, there's like, you had people on that show, they would make fun of Gene Yockey, which I couldn't believe, having her sing Hard Day's Night, or somebody pretending to be her singing Hard Day's Night. They were ripping all sorts of people and like doing things that really would only make a program's directors, unless they really got a job, difficult. And, I've seen you, I've heard you when you were visited by management, like during a break, and you and Kirk are like steaming in there, and you're like, you're almost taking hostages, you could tell that you've just been effing tampered with during the middle of the show. Did the stations eventually learn the lesson of Eddie and Gerry and Kirk? And in other words, did they say, is this why now radio is so generic and bland now? Because they said, you know what?
Yeah, I mean, I say it all the time. One of the last things they said to us, when Kirk and I sat us down and said, we don't care about ratings. We don't want any more trouble. And I didn't believe them at the time. I said, you can't be a radio executive. This was a guy named Tim Murphy. He was like a VP or whatever. And I looked at him and said, you can't be serious. And he was. I didn't believe him at the time, but he was. They did not want any more trouble. They didn't care how the ratings were. They didn't want any more phone calls or emails or picket lines. And I think Eddie, years before, went through the same thing. Eddie would he would talk about the Wyoming Blasting and Zoning Company and pretend it was WBZ, and he hated the company, the corporate structure, the corporate people. So he would rip on his own company, which that was really trailblazing. And that's something that no one did. And he did it. And, we did it. And I guess we can thank him for it, because he definitely was the first.
Going after ownership. But that was because of the Jacobs, right? Because they stopped.
I don't remember all the, yeah. I mean, he didn't like hockey, and that pissed off a lot of people. And he would make fun of hockey, do the whole put the pudding in the net thing, and that upset a lot of people. I mean, I dealt with that too. We did as a show, whether it was Dino or Kirk, that we didn't do enough hockey, and that was always a faction of listeners or corporate people that were like, "Why don't you talk about hockey?" And
okay, there's a few more minutes of Gerry, but we've got to get to the chat because we were running late. Somehow this show went from me butchering it and making it shorter to getting long, and I know you guys got to get on with your lives. It's oddly quiet at my house right now, so I assume all the kids are dead. So let's go to the chat. There's more. Once again, Gerry, the whole interview for Patreon people is already up. The video is up. You can see his shirt on the microphone. He castigated me for not catching the shirt. I thought it was an audio thing. I don't know. He's a pro. I mean, these with Newsmax, they have resources. I don't know anything. But he was great. Joey's always great, man. Always great. All right, so let us go to the show. So the interview will be up as well. I'll send that to Patreon, and that'll be up on. I'm not going to take it from anybody, but the Patreon folks will get the stuff first. Okay, ready? Here we go. Jessica said I already heard this interview earlier today. So you watched the video. I'm glad somebody watched the video. That's good. Okay, let's go to the chat. Okay.
Hey, Tom. This message is from Steve from Merrimack.
Oh, wow.
He wanted to get some hate about the Ipswich cigar gate a couple of days ago.
Yes.
Let me tell you, my opinion on that is if you're going to look like you just rolled out of a trailer park, yell at a principal like a maniac,
yep.
Don't expect to get a lot of results. That might work where you came from, but it doesn't always work. So, no hate, Steve. You are correct.
Incorrect. The guy's a man of the people. He was working like me, a man of the people. Steve's a Harvard graduate. Don't listen to him. He's an elitist. Oh, my goodness. Steve has one of those gates where you have to press a combo and somebody answers, and then slowly the iron thing goes. Yeah, no. I've seen Steve's mansion. So, yeah. No, the guy was just advocating on behalf of his kid. You are incorrect. Well, you're from Ipswich too, Charlie. So I'm dealing with two elites. So.
Hi, Steve from Merrimack.
Hey, Steve.
I loved Eddie. Loved the remembrance you had for Eddie, and there's been some really nice articles online. But one of my favorite things about Eddie was how wrong he could be sometimes. And I go back to when Bill Parcells was coach of the Pats, and Eddie and Dale had a weekly hit with Parcells, and Eddie would always piss off Parcells.
Of course.
One that I remember pretty clearly was during training camp for the Patriots, I think the 96 season, and Curtis Martin was the running back, the bell cow for the Pats. And Eddie said something to Parcells like, Bill, I think Curtis has lost a step. And Parcells was like, Eddie, you are out of your mind. You have no clue what you are talking about. Like, just forget it. And they went back and forth about it. And then, of course, Curtis Martin leaves and goes to the Jets and spends another 10 years in the league and retires a first ballot Hall of Fame. But that was the first thing I thought of with Eddie. But I loved him. Thank you.
That was great, Steve. Yeah, thanks for that. It was the thing with Eddie is that, like, he wasn't afraid to say it. He wasn't afraid to absolutely go 100% in. It didn't have a take. And that's the whole thing. Like, having a take. Maybe he invented having a take. Guys, thank you so much for the Patreon people. I apologize for my ineptitude, and I hope you had some time to... You're still able to be on the message board together. Right? Actually, we should rethink tiers, considering, like, every tier is not guaranteed a video show anymore. Anyway, you guys are fantastic. Tomorrow is Wednesday. I will see you. It's Taco Tuesday. I'm on Wegovy, so I'm not even going to whack out and eat tacos tonight. Poor me. See ya.
C'est La Vie.
I can try to force it.